Hi there everyone, and welcome to the Pink Atheist. I'm your host Rachel Johnson, and today we are going to be talking about atheist activism. So I want to talk to you guys about something that's very close to me and something that I would love to continue and something that I want to further promote. Now, let me explain the upsides and downsides to atheist activism. One of the greatest things that I love about having been an activist, being an activist, is getting to know the community around me, getting the chance to talk to such great minds, and having the opportunity to hear different perspectives. I love that. And, I said it on the previous episode, that there are some really great foundations. Foundation Beyond Belief, Recovering from Religion, American Atheist, Atheist Alliance of America, Atheist Alliance International, things like that. So if you haven't heard of these, give Atheist a look up on Google and try to look for groups. Now, one of the greatest things that we have is some of these groups break down to a local level. So if you haven't found a group around you that you can associate with and spend time with, try checking out meetup.com. They have a lot of atheists on there, and you're more than likely to find a group somewhere around you. So that if you're feeling a little lonely and isolated, you might be able to connect with people who are atheists. And I understand that not everybody can be an out atheist. Some people live in the Bible Belt. Some people have family members which, can cause them problems or harm. So it's not simple for everyone, and I understand that. But there are ways around that, and one of those ways is, an anonymous identification on Facebook, various groups on Facebook, other resources on the internet. Reddit is a great place that atheists like to go and talk. So basically, you have all of these different methods of activism out there and different groups. And we have a lot of diversity. We have black non-believers. There is a church that has started in New York. So just look around. I mean, whatever ethnicity you are, whatever you identify as specifically, there is something out there for you. Activism is great because of that, because I get to be able to connect with and reach out to people from all walks of life, from all over the globe, and get an idea of what they think, what they believe, what they don't. But there is a downside to activism, and I take it very seriously. And now, this is me speaking from my personal perspective. I can't obviously speak for anyone else because I haven't walked in their shoes. So I just want that to be understood. This is something from my heart to you, to say to you, hey, this is the difficulties and challenges we face. As an atheist activist, I put my name out there, and I realize that regarding the future of my career, it can have a profound impact. And that profound impact can be that certain jobs and places can decide that based upon the fact that I have become a public figure and a known atheist, that they may not want to associate with me for various reasons. And I've seen this in the atheist community. Other activists have had quite difficult times either finding or keeping a job based upon the fact that later it's discovered that they're an atheist activist, an outspoken one. And a lot of people take any criticism of religion as a personal attack, which, you try to convince people, hey, you are not your religion. This was something you were taught. You believe this because your parents said this is what we believe, and they indoctrinated you. But not everybody believes that that's the reality. Some people think that, no, we're just out to attack religious people and put them down and cause them harm. And atheists just really, we aren't a group of dangerous criminals. We are a group of people who come together to unite under the idea alone that until there is proof, there is nothing to believe in. Now, I am a staunch atheist. I'm atheist, agnostic, and not only do I not see proof or reason to believe in any deity or any divine figures or anything supernatural, but I tend to dismiss it altogether because the burden of proof on the side of the religious is so insurmountable that I don't believe at any point ever they can provide enough conclusive evidence that I would buy into their dogma. Okay? And that is a harsh stance to take when you are an activist, because this means that I am offensive to every religious group and ideology. And I know this because I have had people come at me and attack me for my staunch stance. I don't believe religion should exist. I would love to see every church turn into a homeless shelter. And people hear that and they say, oh, she wants to destroy religion. Well, in effect, that's kind of what you could say. I would love to destroy it through skepticism, through facts, through evidence. And I also realize that there are people who willingly avoid the evidence and facts at every opportunity that they get. Okay? So, I work within the confines of understanding the reality. And in that, I have faced a lot of backlash and a lot of criticism. And this is what I want to talk about the downside of atheist activism. You know, you get on Facebook and everybody is a Facebook warrior. I have been called a bitch, a cunt, stupid, uneducated, non-scientific. Every attack you can imagine on my person. Oh, you're too fat, you're too ugly, you're too old, this, that, and the other. And, you know, those are the same people that if I met them in public, 10 to 1, they would never have the audacity to engage me in such a way. And I don't engage people in such a way as I have to on Facebook. And some people can say, oh no, that's really who you are if that's what you act like on Facebook. No, because anonymity provides for people to behave in ways that they wouldn't ordinarily. Sure, it's part of them. It's part and parcel. But being a woman activist has such a downside to it because I have to face overwhelming criticism. Oh, you're too sensitive. Oh, you know, you're not logical like a man, or you're just overthinking it, or why are you taking it this way? I didn't mean to tell you that, you know, you're lesser than me as an insulting form. I just meant that women can't think like men do. You know, things like that. And I'm like, okay, but I'm very logical and very rational. And it's like men are taught in our society how to trigger women. And that's what ends up happening. People tend to try to provoke women into exposing their emotional side and making them look like irrational beings, which is tragic because, you know what, I see all these women on Facebook and they get attacked with insults that I don't see from the male side of activism. I see the males and, you know, they'll get into this debate and it will take hours and it's logical and rational and each side holds their own and promotes a point, counterpoint. And then I see what men do to women and it's not even relatively close. And I'm offended by it. And I know that people have done studies to actually prove that this happens. You know, women have gone posing as men and gotten complete opposite answers from the ones that they got when people knew that they were women. And how is this? This is explainable only in one form, that the patriarchy in our society doesn't promote women as leaders and role models. And I really respect that I have some true followers. who happen to be men, who happen to be very feminist, who happen to try their best every day to be good persons. And I feel like they do a good job of it because they've never come on there and questioned my femininity, questioned my ability to critically think, questioned my ability to make a rational argument, questioned my ability to lead. And then there are other males who have. And then, of course, Facebook has its trolls who just openly like to provoke an argument because they get some kind of twisted kick off of, making other people look bad. So they're just gaslighting. They're starting the fire, fanning the flames, and then, blaming you for the fact that the house burnt down. And this is also terrible because it creates this division. That's like a friend of mine, Jennifer Lovejoy. She's such a sweetheart. She was the president of Atheist Alliance of America. I'm not sure if she's currently in that position, but I know that she was. And she has since retired from some of her activism. And that's because someone, when she came to Ohio, where I live, to speak, had the audacity to tell her how ill-equipped she was for the talk that she gave, how bad it was, how she needed to practice. In us activists, we face a lot of this kind of ridicule on a daily basis. And now you might say, oh, well, if you can't take the heat, stay out of the fire. That's not where you belong. But the important problem here is that people don't just take it easy on us. It's not like an easy pathway. I mean, we're spending our own money, we're spending our own time, we're giving up holidays, vacations, weekends, whatever it takes to defend the right of our group to exist, to speak out, to be heard, only to then continually be bashed within our own community. And that's hard, and it's hurtful. And this is why we see so many activists. You either get really tough and callous in activism, or you get out. And it's hard to see yourself making that choice, to where you have to be so callous and so hard that you, I have already learned, if I'm going to go for it, I got to go for the throat. And people are like, oh my God, you're so mean on Facebook. And I'm like, that's because I already understand that if I let people walk over me even a little as a woman, I'm going to get walked over a whole lot. So I can't even give an inch. Whereas I would really love to be the person that I am in my private life, where I'm just kind of like, yeah, okay, that's not a problem. Or, you know what, I really don't agree with you, but here's the reason why. But you can't have that sense of, engagement and compromise with people in a lot of these instances on Facebook. And people will try to purposely break you. It's like a game. And I swear it is. And I don't like conspiracy theories. So this isn't just a conspiracy. I've watched people have come to my wall with the purposeful intent to interact solely with me. I will try to leave a conversation alone, and the person's intention is to provoke a response from me. Okay? And they will sit there and wait until it's my response. Because somehow they achieve a feeling of satisfaction to provoke the activist, then to once again do the gaslighting, and then act like they were the ones who were the victim of the entire thing. And these aren't trolls. These are some of the people within the community. Because I've faced atheists who think that it's not okay for us to speak out. I've faced atheists who think that we should just shut up, get into a corner, and accept our role in society as nothing. Or worse, as being denigrated, as being relegated to the level of rapists, as being the poster children for everything against Christianity in America. Silence bought us nothing for 2,000 years except for cult-like mentalities, death panels. These people people were put to trial. I mean, you see this great gap. Epicurus, Aristotle, Socrates, Plato, minds like that, profoundly thinking. And not all of it was profound. Plato is very boorish and boring. But a lot of atheism back then. A lot of rejection of the ideal of God. And then you have this whole scope where atheism kind of had to hide underground. There was a few out atheists, but they were few and far between, and it really made their life more hectic and volatile. They were obviously targeted for abuse. And then you see now where we had, the rise of Madeleine Marie O'Hare, who created American Atheists and started fighting back. That was the time when we started really secularizing this nation, because it had been overrun with religious law. And the silence that we had for so long, the only thing that it bought us was the security of knowing that we could never be held to the same standard as religious people in standing in our society. That's all. And I don't believe silence helps. I believe that you have to speak out. You have to stand up. Now, that's within its own bounds, because I don't want to see anybody get shot or, hurt or anything like that, become the target of violence because of who they are alone. I mean, if it's something you're willing to take on the chin and you're willing to risk it, great. But if you have a family and this is your livelihood, your future, everything, and the sacrifice is going to leave you homeless and penniless and hated and targeted for violence, then that's not something I would want for you. But for me, I'm lucky enough that I live in a state where there is liberal thinking, somewhat. I mean, John Kasich is our governor. And I go to a liberal arts and sciences school, so I have some leeway. And it wasn't that I set out to be an activist. It was that I set out to speak about what I thought about atheism. And once I started speaking, people liked hearing what they heard. And it continued to grow and grow and grow. And, then I had to back off for a while because I was taking care of my own personal problems and my own health. And now I feel more like I really want to connect with my community. But the hesitancy that I have is because when I have connected with the community, I have faced all this backlash. I mean, every word that I speak is criticized. Everything that I do is criticized. I had one person tell me that they should be privy to my private life because I'm a public person. And I was like, the audacity of that alone was astounding to me, that people thought that they had the right to know every move I made, everything I did within my own personal realm, simply because I'm a public figure in atheism. I didn't sign on for that. And I feel like some things about my life, I should have the joy of relishing in silence and in privacy. So I want to give to my community, but I don't want to give so much of me that I feel like I have nothing left. And that's where we need to really understand our activists. They are entitled to their joys and their sorrows. They are entitled to their tomorrows, in whether they decide to disclose that with you or keep that to themselves. It's really not in your control. You have to have a little bit of respect. Now, that doesn't mean that dissent is not welcome, and that activists can't be wrong, and that you should never criticize them openly. We can all be wrong at some time in our life. In fact, if you aren't, something's wrong with you. We are all humans. We all are fallible. And that's part of the beauty of being human. There's always something to learn and grow from. So there is no atheist that I can look to and say, No, they're completely perfect and we should just accept them as such. None. So I want you to really think about that, because here it is, and we see such intense criticism. Now, let me say, I have had arguments with a couple of atheists within the community, but I hold no grudge because it has no value. I'm just going to choose not to associate with those people, but I'm not going to criticize them and put them down openly and publicly, because some people really like them and follow them. And if you do, great. But infighting isn't something that I really want to get into. You know, I'm a feminist, and I'm very proud of that. And I'm not going to relegate myself to not being that for the security of someone else who isn't me, so that they can feel like they got to strip a title from me to make themselves feel more enlightened. And there are other feminists within the atheist community who see things in other manners than I do. And I reserve the right to look at the world from my scope and view, and I'm sure they do as well. And so, being that we have disagreements, I still am not going to openly bash anyone, because here's the deal. Just because I don't see something from someone's perspective doesn't mean they can't make valid points. A broken clock is right twice a day. So, at some point, they're going to make a valid point, and they're going to be right. And I'm going to appreciate that, even if I don't really enjoy that person or agree with them. Even Sam Harris, I'm really not a huge fan of his. But there are occasions where he has been right. Christopher Hitchens, I really am a fan of his. And I'm very sad that he's gone, but there have been instances where I've completely disagreed with him. So, that's the thing. Do you like an activist enough that you can choose to disagree with their points and yet continue to support and respect them? If you don't enjoy an activist, don't spend your life attacking them. Don't make it your job to destroy or discredit them, because there is someone out there who does enjoy them, who does want them representing what they do. And it's unfair, and it's cruel, and it's crass, and it's tacky to spend your life in attacks on activists, because we have the most to put out there to suffer from. This is not an easy thing to do. When I think about what the world is going through and all of the things going on, I think, wow, it is a truly tough job to be an activist in anything, because there is always a rhetorical point. Somebody can always, up you one with evidence, or sometimes pseudo-evidence, as it were, when it comes to like GMOs and anti-vaxxers. And they can also make facetious arguments, tend to your one good argument, because, they know how to inundate you with all of this drivel, and then you can't really respond to it all. I read a study about that as well. So you really have to give us a little leeway. We are human, and we don't have all day. Sometimes, like, for me, my activism is sort of a post getting done at the job, post getting done at the work, after spending some time with a boyfriend, after everything else in my life is sort of sorted into its orders, I get to take time and say, I miss my community. I really want to talk to them. I really want to spend some time with them. And then I'm so limited because I am so busy. But that doesn't mean that I don't enjoy my community and really relish them, because I have found some very profound thinkers and some amazing people among it. What is his name? His name is Brian, and he's in Pennsylvania, and I was introduced to him through Blair Scott. And he is just an amazing human, and he has some very profound thoughts. William Hamby is another. He is a wonderful thinker, and also, a therapist. And that's the great thing. I can name to you so many wonderful people. And I would love to count more people among those ranks. The problem is that when I'm on Facebook, I feel like I have to be on my guard. And I really would want to enjoy it. And as soon as I do and I start, posting things that are more relative to who I am, I feel like I come under attack. And so then I kind of draw back just a little bit, and I'm like, well, maybe I can't expose the fact that, I'm just a flower-loving, pink-enjoying girl who goes to college, and I love painting and doing crafty things and thinking, and, I'm going to be wrong a lot of the time, especially on physics, because I have no clue what I'm doing when it comes to physics. A lot of people don't. But I love cells and biology, and I'm just an average person who wants to make this life worth living, and I want to make sure that the future has a life worth living. So, anyhow, what I want the takeaway message to be here today, before I leave you, is that give a little bit of thought before you go after someone on Facebook, if you have any sense of common courtesy and decency. Really take into account what the effect of your comments and your behavior is there, because it might be anonymous to you and in the respect of getting to them, but it has real effects. And we are just human beings, not perfect by far, but we try to make life a little bit easier for you guys to face when it comes to being able to speak out, when it comes to facing your inequalities in the society. So just give that some thought and understand the gravity and levity of what's going on when you become an activist. Anyhow, that's going to do it for today, and thank you so much for joining me. Until next time, this has been The Pink Atheist. I'm your host, Rachel Johnson. Goodbye.